Let's try that again. Welcome to the Texas Strangers. You have to turn a microphone on in order to do something right around here. All right, coming up this week in Texas Strangers, we're going to start off the show talking about once again, college football and how A&M let the system down.
A&M blowing it again in a win against Mississippi State and a loss against Mississippi State.
Yes, and Trevor Knight going down. We'll get into more details of that. Also, Week 9 of the NFL. I thought it was a horrible week.
Yeah, some bad matchups there.
Very bad matchup. Then we're going to go right into the middle of the gut. We'll start with something new called Lone Star Baseball, where we cover the Astros and the Rangers. We'll get into some Mavs Moneyball, talking about, hey, you can't have these two reporters in there.
And your best friend Mark Cuban has something to say about that, right?
Exactly. Stick around. Texas Strangers starts now.
We are the Texas Strangers, and we're glad to have you. Now here's David Carson and Kirk Jones.
All right, it's good to see that Brad retained something for more than a week.
I did. I'm very happy that I did that.
So
you're proud of that, aren't you?
I am. I'm very proud. Very proud.
Hey, did you go back and listen to last week's episode? I corrected you?
I did.
Okay, did you hear the golf clap?
I did.
What did you think about that?
No comment.
You don't like it?
I thought it was awesome.
I liked it too.
I'm not going to rag on myself, but
yeah,
it was pretty clever.
Well, you know, because we do a lot of things here, we're not actually live on the air, and we don't. Brad's has so many things he's doing over there. We go back in, we edit some stuff in, like some of the drops and stuff like that Brad doesn't get at the right time. But anyway, yeah, that was. I thought I had to do that to you and see if you paid any attention to it.
I did.
All right, so we talked about college football. First is it Week 8 they released the first rankings?
Week 9, I think.
Week 9, okay. So
they're a week ahead of
right.
NFL.
That's right. Okay, so week 9. No, hold on. Yeah, Alabama. I'm looking at the rankings right now. So
right.
Yeah, they've already had a bye. So you were correct. Week 9. So A&M got some love from the committee.
Yep.
Turned around
and
lost.
Squandered.
Now, did they squander, or can we say that Trevor Knight, with his shoulder problem, was part of the issue?
Well, they were down, even with Trevor Knight, I believe, because it was at halftime. It was 21-7, I think.
Right, but still, you know, he wasn't in the game.
Right. He's a big part of why they're good. I give him that. Their season's over because he's the guy, you know.
Well, they're still going to get a bowl bid,
right? Because they have 7 wins.
Right.
They already have said they're 7-2.
In all actuality, I think that's going to be our Cotton Bowl.
You think so?
I think it's going to be Oklahoma and A&M in the Cotton Bowl.
I don't think that because they'll lose to SMU or they'll lose to LSU. They're going to lose to LSU. They have to have Trevor Knight to win against LSU.
Speaking of LSU, they had a really good showing against Alabama, I think.
Yeah, and they got dropped.
Yeah, they're always going to show up against that team.
True.
They dropped too far. I don't want to continue to stay on A&M, but if you look at the rankings, they went from 13 to 24, 23.
24. That 24 almost came out.
Yeah, 24. Yeah, 24.
24.
Well, to the poll that matters,
I gotta say
most,
it like LSU guys.
25. But if you look at the AP, they have them at 19. So.
Right. The college football rankings, though, that come out every Tuesday have them at 24, right?
Right. So
which is too far. You lost the number 1 team by 10 points.
When we look at these polls, you have these new the committee polls, your coaches poll, and your AP polls. Which poll, before you get to the committee poll, which poll do you go by the most?
The AP.
The AP.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Okay. I go by the coaches usually.
Really?
Do you?
Yeah.
I mean,
you're the kind of person to like to just stray away from the norm a little bit. So I can see you going after the coaches poll.
You want to know why I go away from the AP?
Why is that?
Usually you have some writer that has this hard case for a certain team.
Bias.
Oh, yeah. They're like, oh, this team, I'm going to push them no matter what. And I know that.
Like your Oregons and your
We don't have to start with that school's name right away, okay? But with that in mind, they get on those teams and they say, oh, they have to be 2 losses. Some of these teams, they've started out 0-2 and still in the top 25. And let like a Texas or a Texas Tech start out 0-2. They're not going to get a sniff of the top 25.
And that was the thing too with the whole AP. How after Texas won that Week 1 game against Notre Dame, and they jumped all the way from unranked to number 11. Right. I thought that was way too high to begin with.
Without
and
a
then
doubt.
Whenever they lost against Cal, they're like, "Oh, you're right back out the top 25, or at least at the bottom." I'm like, okay, that's kind of being inconsistent there.
Well, I think they did that too because Notre Dame wasn't as good. I mean, they're not as good as people thought they were going to be. They were
That's
ranked.
the whole reason why they shouldn't have preseason rankings to begin with. But continue. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I think you're right. Just it's for people like us to talk about though.
Right.
It gets the buzz going.
Mm-hmm.
It gets. I mean, people love talking about the rankings. I mean, this week's rankings doesn't matter. Last week's didn't matter.
Right. And I never get the part of Alabama won the national title the last couple of years in a row. But sometimes this was a thing of the past. If you won the title, I don't care how many seniors and juniors you lost to the NFL. You're still the defending champion, and I think coming into the new season, you should still be the top dog.
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. I think if you won the national championship, you should start off the year. I think that's the privilege of winning the national championship, too,
right.
that you get the benefit of the doubt of being number one.
I think the last time that they didn't do that was, that Ohio State team, maybe a couple years ago. Because it normally happens that way.
Ohio State was number 1 when they came back after they won the national title.
Because I remember a couple years ago they did that with some team, I forget. But
yeah, I don't know. I think I know what you're talking about.
But okay, so our top 4 teams now: Alabama at number 1, number 2 is Clemson, Michigan 3, and number 4, University of Washington. So the Washington folks finally got into where they thought they deserved to be.
Right.
Finally took their rightful place in their minds.
So when I look at this poll, there's only 2 games coming up that's really going to do anything for it. Yeah. I think Washington's going to stay there at 4 the whole time. Maybe they go up to 3. It doesn't really matter.
Well, if Michigan loses to Ohio State, then they're going up if they stay undefeated. But,
well, see, I think if Ohio State beats Michigan, I think Ohio State leapfrogs Washington.
I have a problem with these rankings right here.
Well, okay.
I don't think Washington should be number 4. I know people were complaining and all that. Ohio State should be number 4 because they've beaten Oklahoma handedly. They beat Wisconsin solidly, and they beat Nebraska this week. All 3 were top 10 teams when they played.
But you lost to Penn State.
You did, which is now a top 10 team.
Very true.
Their schedule has been 20 million times harder than Washington. The tough we talked about last week.
Nobody saw Washington coming, but yeah.
Right, but the toughest teams they played are not very good now. Stanford, Oregon. Who did they play last? Who did they play this last? California.
Yeah, Washington played Cal. Yeah, last week. Yeah.
I mean, those teams aren't that great. They have been good in the past, but they're not good this year.
Well, Nebraska got a lot of love.
They were number 10 when they came in to play Ohio State,
and they lost 62-3.
Right.
So,
and they dropped pretty bad. I think they're out of the top 20.
I would hope so.
Yeah, but still, they were a top 10 team when they played, and they played Oklahoma, who continues to hang around the top 10.
So on the Ohio State schedule, Maryland, Michigan State, Michigan. Next 3 matchups.
If they win all 3 of those, they're without a doubt in.
Okay, so what does that do with Michigan? Does that put Michigan out?
I can say Michigan can stay in.
Well, it depends on what happens with Washington, too. If Washington goes undefeated, I believe they should still be in the top 4. And then that's the whole thing. If Ohio State beats Michigan, they should be in over Michigan.
Right.
But what happens if Washington has 1 loss, Michigan has 1 loss, and Ohio State has 1 loss? Then what do you do there?
Well,
that's the real question.
Well, see,
I would have Ohio State in for sure, without a doubt. Michigan's had a horrible schedule. They haven't played anyone near as hard as Ohio State. I might even have Louisville over Michigan.
Michigan's played.
Everybody's forgetting about Louisville too.
I might have Louisville right now, just in this looking at it week to week. I might have Louisville 5. I might have Washington 6.
But the way the committee's looking, they're seeing to bring in the Heisman race, they're seeing there's not that many good Heisman candidates right there, and they're saying, oh, if we put Lamar Jackson and Louisville in the playoff, that's gonna justify us possibly giving him the Heisman. I can see them thinking that way whenever the committee meets later on down the road.
It's still going to
be if that scenario comes in.
It's still going to be really hard for Louisville to get in, because let's say it comes down to the Michigan-Ohio State game. If Michigan loses, you could still make a case that for Michigan to
still be in
with
one loss, yeah,
right, over Louisville or over a one-loss Washington.
So who Michigan has played before they got into Big Ten? University of Hawaii, they beat them 63-3. University of Central Florida, 51-14, and Colorado, 45-28. And people are talking about Colorado like they're somebody. I guess they're good in the
better
Pac-12.
than they have been in recent years. Let's put it that way. Yeah,
they were in the top 25 last week. Well, they still are. They're number 12.
I don't think they're that great. There's nothing.
That game was close with Michigan, though. I remember watching that game. I just wish Michigan would play a little bit tougher competition. Ohio State grinded down, bit down, and played teams that were going to be tough to beat. Oklahoma.
So Michigan's beat Penn State 49-10, and what's the other big ones they have? They beat Wisconsin 14-7.
They beat Michigan State, I believe.
Which Michigan State's having a down year anyway.
Right.
32-23. So then what they have remaining left is Iowa, Indiana, and Oklahoma. Oklahoma State, OSU.
Ohio State.
So really,
Ohio State.
The other OSU.
Yeah, the other OSU. My goodness, I can't believe I said that.
The Ohio State University.
So really, you see one loss there. Ohio State. They're going to beat Iowa.
One possible loss.
They're going to beat Iowa. They're going to beat, who else would you say? Michigan
State.
Yeah, Michigan State.
Michigan hasn't played Michigan State yet?
No.
They always play them later on in the year.
That's the second last of the game.
Yeah.
Okay, so they have Iowa, Michigan State, and Ohio State left.
Let me check one more time.
I think they've played Michigan State.
Yeah, they played Michigan State. They beat them 32-23.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Who are the teams that Michigan has left that you said? Iowa,
Indiana.
Indiana.
And Ohio State, not Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have to play Wisconsin. Michigan didn't. I don't think they did. They did? Okay.
14-7.
Because Wisconsin's solid. Yeah, I don't know. I could make a case right now at this point that I would have Ohio State and Louisville ahead of Washington. Just because of the strength of schedule and the teams that they've played. Because it sounds like to me that's what the committee is looking at, a strength of schedule and toughest opponent played.
Well,
even though you are undefeated,
Louisville will have to get through Houston, and that's coming
which
up.
they're not even in the top 25 anymore.
Right, and that's in
the
17th.
Game, yeah.
So I guess they're going to say, "Hey, we're playing a SEC team in Kentucky," but
hey, watch out for Kentucky. They're first place in the SEC East right now.
I will hope down with dope.
That's right.
For Kentucky, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think the committee has it right.
You do?
Yeah.
I just can't get over Kirk's face when I played that drop. He just kind of like froze, like he was going to say something, like he didn't know what was going on.
No, I just wanted to hear the drop. I wanted to hear what he said. I want to hear what he said.
So, but what more can we? You never know what's going to happen week to week with these kids in college football.
Never.
I see A&M kind of sliding down. They may slide down a little more. Auburn may come up. Wisconsin may stay idle where they are.
I mean, A&M beat Auburn at Auburn, third game of the year.
Right.
So I mean, that's a solid win for A&M. But I don't think. I mean, if you look at their schedule, they play Ole Miss this weekend, UTSA, and LSU. I could see them losing to UTSA. I mean, not UTSA.
Uh-huh.
I could see them losing to Ole Miss.
Massive upset. Lose to UTSA.
No way that's going to happen. I could see them losing to Mississippi, University of Mississippi, and LSU. That's what 7 in. If they win you at UTSA, they're 8-4, which is a bowl. But you're not going to be at a top tier bowl. I don't think.
Yeah, that probably would kick him out of the
Cotton Bowl.
The Cotton Bowl.
Maybe not. I mean.
That Texas A&M Oklahoma matchup.
That's especially around here.
That's a big matchup here, and it sells out
Without a doubt.
So
we would get so many people because